Welcome to Nothing Less Than Extraordinary, and an amazing podcast dedicated to ordinary people like you and I that have done extraordinary things in our life. I want this to be a human celebration of the human struggle in this journey called life through its up and down and twist and turn. May their life stories inspire you to reach your greatness and to reach your full potential. It is going to be a lot of fun, lighthearted, and raw in all its form. We will cover topics such as love, depression, divorce, parenting, woman in business, anxiety, addiction, self love, forgiveness, and so many more. I am super thrilled and honored to have you here. My name is Ridon. May you have a great listening. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This is the launch of my first podcast ever, and I'm super, super excited because I have my very, very good friend, Caroline Blanchard. She's an amazing individual. So welcome, Caroline.
Thank you. And I want to start by congratulating you for launching your podcast. What a project. Good job, girl.
I have to say that all that is thanks to Carolyn and thanks to you. Honestly, I needed a kick in the butt. And you always have dreams and stuff, and you're wanting it to be so good. And I needed you to kind of just launch me off, and thank you for all your help, for your expertise and training. So I'm super thrilled to have you here. We're going to have an amazing topic to discuss about. It's going to be fun, lighthearted. So I hope you guys all enjoyed. So Carolyn, we're going to go ahead and dive. I want to do an introduction of my friend very shortly. So we met in playing soccer, women's soccer together. And it's a lot of fun. She's very authentic, very human, a great mom. And right away, although we weren't on the same team, I connected with her right away. It was just like this instant connection. And she barely known me. She showed up to my sister's funeral and drove all the way to Ottawa at 9 a.m. It really deeply touched me, and it showed me what kind of human being you are. So I'm so happy to count you as one of my friends. But you have an amazing life to talk about, and that's what we're here for, celebrating the people in our lives, ordinary people, the average Joe, that lead an amazing life. So Carolyn, go ahead.
Well, thank you. And I don't drive just to funerals like that. You meant more than that. We had a good connection. And I have to say, Ree is a ball of energy and joy on the field. And even when I heard that her sister passed away, like she did not bring it on the field. And it's not because she wasn't affected by it. It's just because, that's the person she is. So I was amazed by that. And of course, all the soccer sisters just wanted to support her. So, I'm an average Joe or Jane. So let's talk about me a little. Well, I've had a really, normal upbringing with a single mother. She did her best. She was amazing, but I was raised with my mother and my sister. So for me, it was always, women had to be able to repair stuff in the house, paint the walls, and do everything because we did not have a man around. Yes. And it was an amazing upbringing because it did give me, a different experience and a different strength. Of course, it brought, different issues as well, but let's focus on what it brought good.
Yes.
So, I left school when I was in CJEP. I was actually studying to become a police. Yes,
wow.
A cop.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a detective, and to become a detective, you have to do like your first 5 to 8 years have to be on the road and blah, blah. And it was all stuff I did not want to do. Yeah. So I was just like, no, that's not for me. And it's also because I realized, and I'm thankful for that, I realized very early on that I would probably be a very frustrated policewoman because, I do believe in justice, like 100%, but I don't necessarily believe in the criminal code. So because I have people close to me that are lawyers or police. So, I've seen people walk away on serious charges just because, I don't know, the proof wasn't collected properly or stuff like that. So I knew that if I was in that situation, I would have turned probably very aggressive, you know. So thankfully, I moved away from that,
Mhm.
and yeah, I started traveling, and then around 21, I decided, hey, you know, I should put my brain to good use because I was
Mhm.
working in bars, and although it was so fun
Mhm.
and very entertaining, I wasn't going anywhere. So I went back to university.
Mhm.
And in my last year of university, I won a bursary to go to
Wow.
Vancouver to learn English.
Mhm.
So I went there for the summer. I
Mhm.
had a fling in the summer there. Of course, like, I mean, you're 23 in Vancouver, people are all gorgeous there, and you meet this,
Yes.
you know, gorgeous man.
Mhm.
But the little exception here is that I came back pregnant. Whoops.
Ah,
Um,
ah.
so at 24, I had my son, and then, you know, a whole new life started. It
Mhm.
was really like I became a mother, and for me, that's almost like where I really started living and feeling, you know, amazing.
Yeah.
Because I'm putting all of this very light, but you
Mhm.
know, there was some traumas in my childhood
Yeah.
that, without seeing myself getting into that, as
Mm.
of 11, I started drinking. It
Yeah.
was kind of like numbing, you know, whatever was not fun to feel.
Yeah.
And it was kind of filling that black hole in
Mhm.
me. Well, so that I thought, but it wasn't, you know, but I just felt like for these moments that I was drinking,
Yeah.
everything was better. So,
Mhm.
you know,
But it
with time,
started off slowly, Carolyn. It started off like slowly, the drinking at 11. Did your mom
mhm.
know?
Yes, what, you know what? It started very innocently. It was my
Yeah.
aunt's wedding,
Yeah.
and it was wine for everyone. And my siblings are 5, 6, 7 years older than me, so
Mhm.
they thought it was really funny to put some wine in my glass.
Yeah.
I walked out of there drunk out of my head. It was, you know, when I think about it, it's funny, but it wasn't. And then my mom thought I was sick, so she had me taking a bath and relax, which
Okay.
that's the worst combo.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
a hot bath when you're drunk is not, anyway, didn't like it. But yeah, after, you know, I had friends that were just like, hey, let's go drink in the park.
Mhm.
So we would take a bottle from their parents' cabinet because my mom didn't drink.
Yeah.
And, you know, of course, at that age, it doesn't start every single day. It
Mhm.
starts, you know, I don't know, once a month, and then it goes to once every 2 weeks, and
Yeah.
then you start every weekend, and the addiction takes very fast, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It happens really fast, and I don't think you realize it. And my mom didn't see it at all.
Mhm.
I was good. You know,
Yeah.
I was really good at telling stories and stuff like that. So, and she trusted me. So,
Mhm.
um, and of course, like I said, at that age, it's kind of probably hard to pick on.
Mhm.
But as I grew older, you know, then you go into teenage, and then parties are normal, and then
Yeah.
being a rebel is normal. So
Mhm.
it's like you're actually the cool one for being a
Yeah.
party girl. Like I
So were
wasn't
you
seen
the
as
rebel?
issues. I was seen as the fun, wild one, and
Ah. Mhm.
you know,
And
I
you're
was,
still fun today, just in a different version.
yeah. Thank you for saying that. A more sober version. Yes, but I was more popular then, though. I have to say that. Like, you know, I was always invited everywhere.
Mhm.
Um, and then, you know, I worked in bars. So that too, like it was basically drinking every single day, but it was cool. It was okay, acceptable because it
Yeah.
was during work. So I was a bartender. So someone would pay me shots. So it was
Mhm.
almost like, you know,
Yeah.
part of my work. And again, it was fun. It was this, it was glamorous. No
Very
one saw it as
glamorous.
a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
And no one wants to see it as a
Yeah.
problem. And that's
Mm.
the big thing, you
Yeah.
know? Because when you're on that fast, fun train,
Mm.
you don't want to say you have a problem.
No.
Because, first of all, usually you're surrounded by
Mhm.
people who all have the same problem.
Okay.
So you don't want to lose your environment. You don't want to lose your fun. You don't want to lose all your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I think it's
that's,
I don't want to cut you off on this one.
yeah.
I think it's a really, I'm so glad we touch on it because one, I have to say, I'm so proud of you. You're leading and celebrating this year, your 10 best life of recovery with everything. It's huge. It's huge. Just making like, I can only possibly imagine like going through the recovery process every single day. It's a stumbling block all the time. So I'm happy that you get to share this beautiful experience and everything that you learned and you've grown. I just want to make it clear you're still just as popular in a different form, if not more. We just
Oh,
see it
thank you.
differently, okay? Because you do radiate that when you're actually on the soccer field. I watch you often, like I'm very observant. I don't pay attention, but I take notes and you radiate that. I just want you to be aware of it. But to share it with young people right now who may be struggling, because many of them are probably dealing with a lot of stuff and they are probably going through similar things as you, maybe different problems. So I'm glad to be able to share this and bring it to the forefront. Yeah, it all starts slow until it gets completely out of control. So
Yes.
go
And
ahead.
it's
Yeah.
pretty ironic now because I have my two older kids are 21 and 23.
Yeah.
And I look at the addictions now in the new generation,
Mm.
and I'm like, thank God I wasn't in that generation where, pot was actually legal. And, it's just crazy.
Hmm.
Everything that is offered to them now, it's even more than what was available to us.
Yeah.
So it's even more a question of decision
Hmm.
in today's age,
Yeah.
that you have to make the decision not to abuse something or not to overdo it on something, because the alternative, abusing, is so easy. It's
Hmm.
right there. You can actually call the SDCQ, whatever,
Hmm.
and they deliver weed to your place.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, what? In my days, it used to be a pusher and we had to hide. And now it's like it's all legal. It's crazy. It
Yeah.
blew my mind. I learned that not too long ago, and it literally blew my mind. And my kids were laughing at me, and I was just like, wow.
Hmm.
Anyway, but that just goes to show it's really all a question of decisions.
Yeah.
And it's hard sometimes to make the decisions when the alternative is so easy and accessible.
Yeah.
But I think that what we really need to look at is, drinking or smoking or whatever you do is your own prerogative.
Yep.
Not everyone is addicted.
Yep.
And not everyone do it for the wrong reason. I really think that no one should, because, for our health in general, we
Hmm.
shouldn't take all these substances.
Hmm.
But I do know some people who, tried it, or and they've let go of drugs, but they tried it
Yeah.
here and there. And I know people who will drink a glass of wine, when they go out or socially,
Yeah.
and it's okay. But you have to always be super aware that all of these substances are addictive, and kind of monitor
Yeah.
why you're using them and how much you're using them.
Hmm.
Because falling into addictions is, it's easy. And like you said, my 10th year anniversary, I'm 47 now, so it took me until 37
Okay.
to stop everything.
Okay.
But it happened after an overdose. And
Hmm.
um, if you would talk to anyone who knew me, absolutely no one had a clue that I had an addiction,
Yep.
because I was a very high profile, high achiever. I was
Hmm.
in corporate. I was a good mom. I was the volunteer of my son's hockey team, the volunteer of my daughter's soccer team. So
Yep.
literally, when that happened, it was a shock to everyone.
I want to like pause on that one because you posted something on Facebook that really touched me, talking about depression. As you know, this is what depression looks like, and it's a picture of a high performing individual or whatever addiction or whatever stuff that you're going through. I mean, the image that people think of a person that's maybe struggling through stuff, or a broken person, it must be like they don't look, they don't. And that is so far from the truth. I think we need to see it differently. And it touched on the point when you mentioned that my sister as well, like who suffered from depression, was a high performer, had a bright future. So when she took her own life, nobody would have, could have, even I, who was very close to her, and she let me in. It's really tough for her. It's an ego thing, a lot of pride as well. There's a lot of shame, a lot of hurt, a lot of self-hate. So I want to forecast, I want to bring to light this particular idea that you mentioned. That is not because you're not a good mom or you can't do this thing. A person who's suffering may look like you and I. We would never suspect them. And that's the hardest part. So, yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
and you know what, to add to this, I find that one of the worst depression, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because clearly I didn't have them all, and I'm not a doctor, but it's those mild depression. So I probably started depression when I was 5.
Mhm.
I learned very fast, and yes, it was a big trauma, and but I remember as a child being sad,
Yeah.
as a child, like dreaming about another life. Which,
Mm.
now that I'm a mother, I'm like, it doesn't make sense. You shouldn't
Yeah.
have this once so early on. Um, but it was always mild. So I've always been in a mild depression,
Mm.
allowing me to still have a normal life,
Mhm.
allowing me to be able to wear a mask every single day. I was always a clown in my class,
Yeah.
because that's, I was extreme. So that was my way of dealing with my sadness. It was to make people laugh.
Mm.
And it transferred from my class to my work to now
Yeah.
soccer or whatever. I'm quite often the clown, just because that's the personality I have developed to
Okay.
cope with what I
Uh-huh.
feel inside. Because I always try to, you know, how can I say that? Overcompensate for the sadness that was in me. So I
Yeah.
would overcompensate with being really funny.
Hmm.
Um, but people don't see what's going on inside. They see the outside. And then again, when there's self-shame or self-esteem issues or self-love issues, like
Yeah.
I'm just learning recently at 47, I can say in the last 2 years, I can say that I love myself.
Me
It,
too.
yeah, not always every single day, but
No,
but most of the time, I would say 95% of the time. But for me, it has been a
a journey.
decades
Mm.
of work. But my point is to overcompensate for all of that. Quite often, we become high achiever because
Yes.
we become like, what's your goal? Show me your goal. I'm gonna get to it, because that's how we start validating ourselves. And I'm
Yes.
not saying that all overachievers have issues here. I'm not generalizing anything.
No.
I'm just saying that for me, and like someone like your sister, and that's probably why I felt so close to you, because I didn't know your sister and I felt like I knew her.
Mm.
Um, it's completely a shot in the dark. Like, you don't expect these things from people
No.
like us,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I decided to come out public,
Mhm.
8.5 years ago,
Yeah.
just because honestly, I was tired of people thinking
Mm.
my life was perfect,
Mm.
of people thinking I was so perfect and so happy and so this, and I had the cute husband and the cute kids and the cute dogs, and
Yeah.
I was just so sick of it.
Yeah.
Like, that was my moment of disgust. I was just like, done.
Mm.
People, I'm not that.
Yeah.
But it's easy to watch someone and think they have the perfect life. They have
Hmm.
the perfect skin. They have the
Hmm.
perfect legs and all of this.
Yeah.
And then they don't see themselves like that.
No, that's it. I want to touch base on something that you mentioned that is extremely important. The fact that you mentioned that depression, and going back to this point, the perfection as well, because it's something we all struggle with a lot, perfection. And It's so you enlighten me, like, of everything. Like I knew my sister, but now I have a better understanding a little bit. Like it's funny. I'm sure she's with us today. So sis, it's for you, this podcast. Everything I do is for you. Um, so wasn't expecting that that particular moment.
He is so proud of you right now. So, and I find it beautiful how you're honoring her memory. And that's probably one of the things that I found beautiful with you since day one. And it's also because of your culture, but even the funeral was a celebration of life, and you've never let yourself fall into the victim place. You always just remembered and reminded everyone how amazing she was. And she's lucky, that because sometimes when you leave this way, it's not good things that are said about you. And for me, I met her through this whole journey, and I'm like, wow, what an amazing person she was. So she's proud of you, and amazing on you to honor her this way.
So this is the reason for the podcast, is celebrating amazing people. And Caroline, you're amazing. So I want to say, with regards to this, I wasn't expecting this to be part of it. And the worst part is, like, I try to promise not to cry too, is God, Jesus. But coming back to the very important issue about depression, mild depression, I think I was talking to one of my guy friend, and he suffered through depression as well, is that we think depression is something to avoid, that it's like a bad thing, but we all go through depression. I want to bring that through. With me, like, I'm a very bubbly person, usually very happy, but thinking back at it, I did suffer from mild depression when I was in college. It was hard, and not understanding what it's going through, identity crisis. Who am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to be this high achiever as well. And then when you mentioned that, being a high achiever, my sister was a super performing person, high performer, over perfectionist. Everything had to be, and she was really good at it. And I think at some point, I was reading a book as well. I forgot which book because I read so many books, but a book they were saying about wanting to attain you. And Mel Robbins had said it very well, which stuck in my head as well, is that we associate our worth to the job that we hold, to the things that we're able to do, to the athleticism that we actually achieve, when it shouldn't be that. And when you're talking about self-love, which I actually recommend the High Five book as well, it's very good. So many of her book is very good, but there's so many author. I don't know which author I'm supposed to choose, but Mel is definitely has hit the jackpot. I like her language, and I like the swearing as well, because I do curse, but you won't hear it here, but I do curse. But it's the authenticity of it all. So all that just to say, if you do suffer from depression, I want you to feel like it is normal. It's a stage that people go through. Definitely go get some help. I didn't get help there in college. Didn't know, but I did talk and found some friend. And I realized I put things in place right away. When you are down, you got to find things to put things in place so that you're not going further down deep. And then I suffer from baby blues depression. But that's more, it's okay, it's funny, but that's more because Buddha or something wanted me to understand what depression really mean. Because people wonder, like, why would somebody, that's what my friend asked me, and his question is totally valid, is why would a person with such a bright future, and she was gorgeous, my sister, when you look at her, it was just, she had it all. So why did she take away her life, And even I find it hard to understand. And we did, like, I gave conferences and stuff like that on self-development. And one of the things she kept saying is that it's a mask she wears. And she was always smiling. That's what she's saying. When I'm with people, I'm smiling, making them laugh. And she was the clown. She's in her family. She's the funniest person in the family. Like, I'm not a boring person, but I seem like the boring person. I'm far from being boring. It just looks like I'm boring. But so she was always the clown in the family, and she made us all laugh. Everything is all light. I'm more of the serious, like, intellectual kind of talking, and I'm a dreamer. But all that just to say that when you're in that, she puts on this mask, and she would often say, when I'm around people, I make everybody feel better, but inside, I don't feel good about myself. And that hurts to hear, you know. So to
And
say,
unfortunately,
yeah,
suicide is a very permanent decision for a
yeah,
temporary situation.
yeah. And the only glimpse I can give into depression, what that is like, is when, like, before I had my second depression with the baby blues, I knew I was going to get it, and I knew exactly when it was going to end. So for me, it was temporary. But I did had a phase where I was driving after giving birth to my daughter, where I was driving, and just like you had, like, there's no meaning to life anymore. Nothing tastes good anymore. Everything just looked gray. All the colors in life that you love, it just all fades away, gets sucked away. And I just recall driving in my car and like thinking about my parents and thinking about my new baby daughter that I've been dying to have, because I couldn't have the baby for 3 years, but just wanting to drive myself off of the rail and going to myself, like, what is happening to me? And I'm in psychology, and I know that I was going to have depression, so I did all kinds of internal work and reading all the books and kind of like getting myself out of this. But all that just to say, when somebody suffer from a depression, is an imbalance of the chemical in the brain, but also there's this deep hurt that you hurt so bad that you don't see the light. And the only reason, like, I don't know what I was hurting then, but I knew what I was suffer from it. And it felt like everything just fade away. Everything didn't had no more meaning. There was no nothing to live for. And so all you had was emptiness and the pain. So you wanted to just end the misery because you couldn't take it no more. So to say, because I was in high school and I heard people committing suicide, and I always used to think those people who actually committed suicide was coward. And I'm thankful for having lived through the experience to be able to truly understand what my sister went through and to not judge so easily. So to say depression, if you do experience it's normal, go get some help. Definitely do that. And with regards to perfection and what you're saying, masking, we are masker disguisers. So when life looks so perfect, and this is where I've learned, whether it's in couple or in family, when I see such a perfection, I'm like, flagged. So you're definitely right. It's definitely worth mentioning about. And my question to you would be, what have you learned from, because there's so much, and I want to be able to give people to celebrate you, what can they look out, like these precious diamonds that you have, like 2 or 3 different things that they can actually carry with them as tool if they've gone through the process, that you think
It's
would
such
be.
a hard one because there's so many different tools. And actually, I would say that I stopped drinking and using it and all of that without going to AA because that was one thing I did not believe in.
Mm,
And it's actually one thing that held me from stopping for a long time. I did not want to be one of those,
mm-hmm,
because
mm-hmm.
for me it was like the drunk on the side of the street with their bottle in a paper bag,
Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
gun and no life. So I didn't want to be one of those. So it stopped me for a while because I didn't really know where to turn to.
Mm,
And for me, the overdose was a blessing. Although unfortunately it did hurt my family because they thought it was a suicidal attempt. It wasn't. But it was a blessing because it obliged me to really confront and be like, well, this is completely unmanageable.
mm,
And that's when you know you have an issue. When it's not you managing your life anymore, when it's alcohol or drugs or shopping or sex or whatever the addiction is.
yeah, that's a very good point.
So I
Mm-hmm,
would say that for me, it was to really, first of all, remove myself from the environment that was pushing me to the edge.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I had a job that, and I'm not saying at all that it's because of the job. It was one
Mm-hmm.
of the components back then.
Mm-hmm.
I was extremely, extremely stressed.
Yeah.
Um, I felt, I was just at the end of my rope. I was
Yeah.
going against my personal values in my job. I felt super stressed. I wasn't okay with things anymore.
Yeah.
And I would just ignore everything that I was and everything that I felt, and I kept going. So clearly, I was drinking more. My dad passed away at the same time, so I did not face those feelings. I decided to drown them. So
Yeah.
a bunch of different things happened, but one thing that I really understood and that I still apply to this day
Yeah.
is you need to remove stress from your life. And I'm
Yep.
not talking about stress like bringing the kids to gymnastics and you're stressed because you're going to be late. Stresses that are more profound than that. Stresses like that makes you go against your personal value, that make you're living a life that you don't really want to live. You're doing
Yep.
a job you don't really want to do. You
Yep.
feel stuck in something, big stresses.
Yep.
It's really face what you want and take action.
Oh, I
So
like
face
that.
what you want, design your life instead of living it by default, live it by design. And
Mm-hmm.
when I look at all the efforts and everything that I've put in my jobs, I could have built myself something big, but it was okay. I had something to learn
Mm-hmm.
through it all. But for me, one of the big thing is remove the stress.
Yeah.
And removing the stress is not only, well, first of all, is finding out what you really want out of life and what we all want something. And at some point, we don't know how to dream anymore or
Mm-hmm.
how to see a future anymore. And that's a big part of depression. So hire a coach, hire someone that will help you see your value,
Yep.
that you can borrow their vision for a while until you have the vision for yourself. The
Mm-hmm.
second thing that I really started doing and that helps me so much is
Yeah.
planning.
Yeah.
So I don't let my days just go by anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Before I go to bed, I plan my day tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what my day will look like. And I need that.
Yeah.
As much as I was a rebel and I didn't want to have a schedule or I didn't want to have, ties or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
when I have an addictive personality
Mm-hmm.
and I'm prone to depression. So
Mm-hmm.
these are two things that, first of all, I had to accept. But once I accepted them, I'm like, okay, so I need a good structure. I
Yep.
need discipline. And if I move away from that discipline
Mm-hmm.
or that structure,
Mm-hmm.
I start being weaker.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I can't let myself go.
I think that's an amazing concept. I feel like I'm always interrupting you, and there's so many good
No.
things. I'm writing like all this just down because I definitely will also, aside from the video, to like have a concrete, like I'm a very visual person of all the
Mhm.
lesson you did. And there's so much I can't even write at the same time. So I feel like I should be looking at you, but I'm typing at the same time. Ah, but this last one, accepting who you are, like what you are faced with, like you realize I come to accept I have like an addictive personality. I know that if I don't take control, if I don't plan ahead, I'm vulnerable. There's so many juicy advice that you're giving. Like, for example, there's so much of them that I can actually apply, but the big one, like taking the core stress out of your life, which is also something I'm trying to do as well, to check in your body, which is something I do on a regular basis. Like if it's not during the day, it's super hectic at the end of the day, which is kind of goes along with the meditation part. It's really checking into your body, doing like a body scan. How am I doing today? Where am I at? How was today? And sometimes we don't know the answer right away. Like we don't understand what the stressor is. I'll give you a quick example. Like, let's say I have to do a project where I have to write, and writing for me is like, oof, I procrastinate. Like I'm not a procrastinator, but when it's something I don't want to do, I'll clean the house. I hate cleaning, but I'll clean the entire house. I'll be spick and span just so that I don't have to do any kind of writing, right? So all that just to say, your biggest stressor. Sometimes when I was going through it, I did everything that I had to do perfectly. I checked everything on my list, but I was feeling always stressed because the next day I knew I had a project of writing due. So it's checking in with your body and go, what's happening here? You okay? Do you need some help? And I think it's good. And a lot of workshop that I attend to too, they always do a check-in. Let's say you don't have to do it every single day, but on a Sunday, you check in, you scan, where am I at? Where's my goal, my objective? So I think that's great. But you got so many juicy stuff. I don't even want to take away from that, but definitely accept who you are, what you're made of, and just say, this is who I am. How can I help myself? What should I put in place so that I can actually excel? And I think also you're touching on the line of loving yourself, and self-care as well is very good. There's one thing that you mentioned, hire a coach is definitely good. I have mentors, like I have so many mentors, and you're my mentor. So it's like the juicy part of everything together combined.
Look at big athletes.
Yeah.
They all have a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the big hockey teams, football teams, basketball teams. They all have a coach.
Exactly.
I used to see having a coach as a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
Now I see it as a necessity. And no matter which stage of your life you're at, like I know people earning 7-figure income and being super successful,
Mm-hmm.
they still have a coach.
Yeah.
It's like I remember when my daughter was singing when she was younger, and I said, would you like me to hire you a coach? She's like, Mom, I know how to sing. I'm like, sweetie, Celine Dion still has a coach. So, it's good to have a coach, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also not just someone who will help you visualize and get to where you're going, but it's accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And see, I've been against authority my whole life, against rules my whole life, and all of this. So when I was thinking at first about planning or putting in rituals, I felt like I would be tied to something. So I fought that so long, but
Mm-hmm.
it always threw me off the wagon.
Yeah.
I realized I need rituals, even on my days off. I'm not saying that I'm always planning like I'm going to do boom, boom, boom. Even on my days off, I have a mental picture when I go to bed of what my day will look like. Even if it's watching 7 hours of Netflix,
Yep.
I know I'm going to do that and I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm
Yep.
not going to stress while I'm doing it because the other big things are being taken care of at another moment.
Yeah. Because
And
there is
my last,
yeah. Go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say my last thing that I really recommend to everyone, and that was a huge thing that I've never done either,
Yeah.
and I had to start when I wanted to get better,
Yeah.
is live one day at a time.
Mm.
And we've heard that motto so often,
Yeah.
whether you went to AA or not, one day
Yeah.
at a time. Like we
Yeah.
all know it since we're young, and we don't do it. But it's really like living in the now is the only place where you can actually feel peaceful.
It's true.
Because the future is anxiety. The
Yeah.
past quite often is regret or anxiety as well.
Mm-hmm.
The now is the only thing you can control. And if I leave people with one major thing is like live in your now. And sometimes the now is way too difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
Just take it. At first, when I stopped, I was taking it literally 1 second at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Hours were long, days were excruciatingly long, but it was like, and then I moved on to 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, and now I am at one day at a time, and I will never let it go past that
Mm-hmm.
because, I've learned how to be grateful, how to really enjoy every single thing that is happening, and most of all, now I have tools that when I get hit with a virtual 2x4 in the head, I know how to react.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's happening right now.
Yep.
Later is going to be better. Let's deal with what I can deal. Let's control what I can control and
Yep.
give in on the rest.
Oh
So
my God. Yeah.
there is a brighter future for anyone.
Mm-hmm. Carolyn, honestly, oh wow, it's jam packed of just I am like, I mean, like all these concepts, but you hit it on the dot. Like I knew you would be amazing in that way, like just really cracking it down, making it simple for people to understand. So thank you so much for that. But the living in the now, it is so powerful, which is something I didn't really understand, honestly, because my sister did give me, when she was going through with depression, she did read a book. I can't remember the name of the author. I have like bad memories since I gave birth to kids, but it's really the power of now. And when she gave me the book, I was like, the power of now, like, it's like, this cheesy thing that you hear all the time. But until you've gone through the process and really understand it, like today, now I understand. Like even each day I have to remind myself, like I find myself lately, I don't know if it's the COVID or the cold season. I'm sure like the cold definitely doesn't help me. Definitely have some seasonal depression, something. And I come to accept that a long time I didn't want to accept, but then I'm starting to think, does depression run genetically in my family? And I'm looking at the pattern in my family, mom and my cousins and different. I think there is something, but it was so hard for me to accept because, like you said, it's like a weakness. Like asking for a coach is like a weakness. But the one thing that I really encourage people is to challenge the pre-concept, the traditional way. It's the one thing I think that really saved me in life. Is not accepting the conventional. I never did accept the conventional. I know I look like a very traditional, conventional kind of person, but inside I'm never conventional. I do it the way I want it. I really bend, I really bend reality to fit my world. And when somebody tells me you're not good enough, you're not strong enough, you're not this, you're not that, which I've gone through without going into detail or talking bad in my 17-year marriage that I had to let go because it was no longer good for us. I could have easily caved into that marriage and come out of it and be completely destroyed. But instead, I came out stronger. I came out thanking my ex for making me the person that I am today, for leading the best life that I've always dreamed of, and now to have the amazing life that I have with my boyfriend, Joel. That's why you see the name Ree and Joel. But he is the love of my life, and he treats me well. But all that just to say that you can bend reality however you want it to see fit with you. There's no right and wrong. And I think when we start thinking what's right, what's wrong, it should be this and that, that's where we get caught into the box. And I don't like being in the box. I've never liked being in the box. I just like to beat to my own drum. And I don't know if you watch like the Disney channel with Bugs Bunny and the Rabbit, but there is this one this one duck. I forgot his name. He's like the big duck. He looks like he's dumb a little bit, but he's so kind. And nothing in life that goes wrong ever bugs him, because they always say, if you don't know like what's affecting you or what's around you, he's just living a happy life. He's always happy all the time. He never hurts people. And so when people are trying to do something bad with him, he just brush it off. It just runs off through him. And for me, for a long time, he was my little hero, because I'm like, he leads the best life. Everybody's going meltdown and he's just smiling and laughing. I want to be that duck. And so I take that on and try to live that life and really lead to march to my own drum. So all that just to, I think this is amazing to say, live your life in the now. Nowadays, I find myself a little bit more stressed. I don't know if it's age or I'm having more anxiety. Like I worry about things more, which wasn't the case before. I live a very easy life where I just kind of go, but I don't know what's happening. So the only way to center myself, the only way to enjoy what I have is when I bring myself back into the now of today. It's beautiful. I'm on this amazing podcast with my beautiful friend. I'm enjoying the journey. I'm being grateful about it. Whatever I don't have yet, I'll soon to have it, but that's another worry for another time. And the past, whatever I did before, however I looked at myself and said, I should have done this, should have done that. Well, that's part of my past, and it has made me who I am today. So let's just focus on today and moving each thing at a time. But I'll end with this one, but not end it, but would just because I want to give back to you. It feels like I'm talking so much, which annoys me. But I would say when you were saying taking each second increment at a time, it is so powerful. We underestimate that. When I watched the movie based on the story, I can't remember. I'm so bad with memory. The war movie. I love war movie because it brings me down. Like I like misery movie. It makes me feel good about my life. It makes me feel like, okay, my problem is not so bad. It's horrible. And my sister used to laugh at me all the time. She's like, oh my God, you're always watching depressing movie. I'm like, but it makes me feel great because I learned so many amazing lessons. But all that just to say, in that particular movie, and I realize it's the same thing with jogging. I don't like to exercise and stuff. I do like exercising, but it's like a hassle to exercise. I mean, that's going to be another topic for another time. But I always say, if I can only run 10 minutes, and then I make it to the 10 minutes. And then I'm like, oh, I made it to the 10 minutes. If only I can add another 5 minutes. What if I just reach to the next 5 minutes? And then next thing you know, you're at 15, 20, 30. By the end of it, I'm running like an hour and a half. And I'm like, well, I guess I made it. So it's find the things that work for you and be easy on yourself, one increment at a time, and just, keep at it. So I do want to say that everything that you've mentioned is so powerful in itself, in the concept itself. We can dive into it for so long. But I want to celebrate you. So I want to say you have an amazing platform. You own your own podcast that you've been doing for a year called Simply Caroline. I want to highlight that. And you are also a coach. And I want you to talk a little bit more about that as well, because the podcast, my platform, is to celebrate you, to celebrate everything that you are, and to share with the world the dream, the project that you have coming along.
Well, thank you. Coaching is a new business venture because I've been coaching people for a decade, but I really decided to put it into a program with more of a structure. Like I said, structure comes back quite often because that's what's easy to follow. Systems, structures. So it's really a structure of living a balanced life based on the 7 F's in your life. So which is family, friends, fun, finance, field, which is your career or whatever you're doing the whole day long, fitness, and faith. And you can be a really high achiever in one of those F and be really low in the other one, and eventually it's going to catch up. So I just help people really taking a good inventory of their life and seeing like what's not working and what's working super well. So let's focus on the strengths and let's strengthen the weaknesses. But I do it really in the recovery optic. So I could take that coaching and really help anyone because we all need it. But I chose to focus on people that really want to, get into recovery, address an issue that they have, or just literally stop drinking or stop using drugs. Because I know for a fact that a lot of us and a lot of business people and, a lot of professionals and a lot of everyone, basically, a lot of single parents, we use and we're not ready to tell ourselves that, we have a problem because we know that if we say that, it just brings a whole new slew of things to do. But I want to help people, not necessarily having to overdose or falling at the bottom to seek help. Just saying, I want to rebalance my life because I need it, and I know that I can be happier than that. So my coaching is really focused on balancing your life and recovery.
You can't really ask for a better coach, Carolyn. This is just a small little capsule of all the amazing thing that you have to share and to really show and teach people. Even if I don't have one, I'm like, I want to be one. Coach me.
Well, you know what? You don't have to have a drinking problem or an addiction problem. Like for you, in your case, your recovery could be really, getting over everything that happened with your sister, which I know that you're really on the right path, but that will be a never-ending path. Because it's always going to be something that happened and that you want to deal with. So I think we all have something to recover from. It's up to us to decide, like, do I want to do something about it or not?
That's it. And I think that is so poignant in saying that. It really comes down to that. And it's the motto I go by as well. I am the master of my destiny. Nobody else gets to say. I mean, they all can have opinions, totally fine with that. But at the end of the day, I decide what I want. And I've always been like that. And I guess it never really did affect me, other people's opinions so much, because I mean, it's great. They have opinion. I respect that. I'm very loving towards other people, but I don't know how this get developed. Or maybe it's just a personality, or maybe I was just blessed, born that way. It's just like,
And the duck in you.
and the duck, yeah, the little duck in me.
Because that's really what I was attracted to with you.
Really?
That I was just like, wow, it really rolls off her back. You know, especially like playing soccer or any sports.
Mm-hmm.
You can make a fool of yourself very easily
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we're not born athletes.
No.
But really, like it really rolls off your back. And
No.
that I find that it's a strength.
Thank you. I think we all have like amazing strength, and that's why we connected as well. And that's why I want to celebrate humankind, because I do believe that we're all put in this earth for a reason. There is definitely a purpose, whatever that may be. You might have to find it yourself, and that's the beauty. Is like learning and teaching people, giving them tools so they then can discover their gem. Because I do think that most people have a hidden gem. They just don't know how to get there. But the thing that you were saying as well is that like letting things roll off your back and just being yourself, like you had mentioned, Simply Carolyn, your podcast, which is an amazing podcast that I listen to, and I really highly recommend it to people. Couldn't it be more like fantastic, the match? Like me, I'm trying to celebrate humankind, and you're just being authentic by being simply you. I just thought like, wow, synchronicity is like, couldn't be more perfect. And I love you so dearly, my friend. So if you want to talk a little bit about your podcast, because that's what I want people to hear about as well.
Well, it's really a podcast on women empowerment. And sorry to the men, I do love you, but I chose to focus on women because I realize that that's where my strength is,
Mhm.
really. And, I really want to work aligned with what my strengths are. So it's on women empowerment, and it's literally everything from being an entrepreneur to business to finance to addiction,
Mhm.
recovery, parenting, everything that a woman can be, which
Yeah.
is everything. So it's all the subjects that I relate to.
Mhm.
I had another podcast before that was really focused on entrepreneurship, and it was amazing, and we were offering amazing tools and everything. But
Mhm.
for me, what was lacking there is that an entrepreneur or a business person or a worker is a human.
Mhm.
Their job or career or business is a part of them. We
Yeah.
all have different parts that, make us. So that's why I called it Simply Caroline, because I could not find a title that would, round up all the subjects that I wanted to touch. But I bring in experts in their own field that will help people better themselves. So, we talked about NLP, how it can help you, recover from trauma. We talked about recovery, addictions. I have a specialist, a finance specialist that comes every 3 months that helps us with finance. I have one that helps us with legal.
Yeah.
I have one that is a joyful being, and she talks about being joyful, like different tips every 3 months. So I have one that is in digital marketing.
Mhm.
So really, whether you have your business or whether you're a stay-at-home mom,
Mhm.
it's going to bring you something
Mhm.
because in the end, you're a woman. And I
Mhm.
really want to empower women.
Great. That's fantastic. I think it's some really great material. I've already listened to a couple of them, and I have to say, you do a fantastic job. I'm wishing you so much success, my friend. I want to end it with this particular one. I want to hear about like if there's one thing, like I always end it with a quote, and I want people to feel empowered and inspired about it. And that's why you and I aligned together. If you had one quote, and I know the who the person is, and she is amazing as well, one quote to leave with for people for today, what would that quote be?
Well, my one quote that I'm mentioning is actually in my bedroom on the wall, so I see it every single day. It's a quote from Audrey Hepburn. Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible.
I think it is so amazing. I've never even seen the word impossible as I am impossible. Now I'm like, wow, she's super bright. Not only is she pretty and a great actress, she's freaking bright, because I never saw that word, but it also aligned. I'm so happy. It feels like a full circle for me doing the interview with you today. I can't describe the feeling, but it feels very magical because as a young child, I've always never believed in the word impossible. Why? I don't know. I just always constantly repeat in my head, there is nothing impossible if you put your mind to it. And if there's anybody who can achieve it, I'll be the one to prove them wrong. And I love proving people wrong. I love going against the status quo. I love doing things my way, in my most silliest way, cocky way. And then the people who truly loves me will always be on my side. So those are the one that really truly matters to me. So I am thankful and grateful for your friendship, for your loves and support. So thank you for being on my podcast today and for guiding me and giving me tools and giving me a beautiful kickstart to this. I can't ask for a better first launch presentation.
Well, thank you for having me. And I know that it's going to be a super successful podcast because what you touch is successful. And congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much, Caroline. So thank you to all of you that are listening today. So you definitely got to tune in. I got an amazing friend. She got so much wisdom. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to all the listener. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.